Hey, business owners, managers, leaders, HR professionals, especially those in Townsville, North Queensland. Here's part three of the recruiting, attracting, hiring people with disabilities. This particular section, I wanted to focus on the pre, during, and post interview processes that, based on my experiences and those of the people whose lives I've been involved with, are particularly helpful. So before the interview, something that's particularly helpful that I didn't mention in previous videos is the how someone goes about applying. Typically we've got this lengthy online application process where they send you a resume and a cover letter and answer a bunch of selection criteria. Throw that out the door. Resumes, typically, as an employer, you want something that is the least risky as possible, that gives you the most insight into a person as quick as possible, and reading over 10, 20, 50, 100 resumes is typically not meeting that need. And they're really cumbersome for employees to have to prepare. So for example, before the interview, you could have people prepare something. You could leave it open-ended. You could say, prepare a short video or a written piece or an audio piece, and or some examples of any work that you've done or any passion projects that you have, anything you do in your free time. Get a sense of who someone really is, because if we really believe that we can uh, hire for the soft skills and train the hard skills, if we can hire for the human skills of personality and accountability and turning up on time and passion, and we can teach the technical skills, then let's follow that practice. Because a lot of times we see, oh, I can hire for talents, natural human skills, and I can teach the technical skills. But what we see in practice is that that doesn't translate to what we do. So think about how you're asking for information from employees. Don't ask them a million questions. The application shouldn't take more than 30 minutes. So go through it. Have someone user test it who has a disability. I've been a part of application processes with people that took 2 hours, sometimes chasing up so much information where it was like, and people don't want to give all this sort of stuff that's kind of private info just to apply for a job. So really contextualize, what do I need before the interview? And then once someone applies, rather than giving them just a thanks for applying, give some context. When will you be in touch? How will you be in touch? Who will follow up? Via what method? And follow up with the method that people are comfortable with. So many times there's employers say, oh, I only want to talk to people on the phone. I don't want to have to email someone. Well, some people are anxious about talking on the phone to someone, and especially someone that they don't know after just applying for a job. And if the role isn't something that requires someone's on the phone 24/7, you don't need to necessarily call them. Perhaps that they really struggle with that form of communication and typing is easier. So allow people to be, how do you want to be communicated with if we follow up? Is it text? Is it phone call? Is it email? Neither of those are too cumbersome. So really clarify when you'll follow up, because people want certainty. They want to know that you're going to follow up. The amount of times where employers don't follow up is still astounding. All it takes is a text message, a phone call, an email with more than, sorry, you didn't get the job, or we'd like you to come in for an interview. Add some context to that. The other thing before the interview, so let's say that you've picked out someone that you want to interview. Think of this more as a conversation rather than a gruesome interview. So set the scene about what to expect. It'll be a chilled chat. You can ask if they need any particular arrangements. Are there any support requirements or considerations or adjustments you'd like us to make to the interview process that would make it helpful? We're very happy to make any adjustments that you think might be necessary. Also set the scene around, can they bring a support person along with them? Are you open to that? You should be, but that's just my opinion. Say you can bring whoever you want. We want to get to know you, but if there's someone that knows you well to help conversation flow or just to make you feel at ease, they can come along. They can sit in or they can sit outside the interview. Ask them where they're comfortable meeting. because not all office spaces are accessible. So set the scene. If your office space is on the second level and there's an elevator, then let people know that. If there's no elevator and there's stairs, let people know that too straight away. Invite people to come in for a tour of the workplace before the interview, or show up a little early so they can have a look around and meet people. This is kind of a way of helping make people feel comfortable of who's who, the office space, and to think of any concerns that they might have. And try not to interview the person alone. You know, you can ask if they need anyone, any interpreters, if they need any adjustments to the lighting or the sound in the workplace, if your workplace is a loud one. Yeah, and remember who you're interviewing. So then there's the during the interview. So you're going to really make sure that this is a comfortable environment. You're sitting at the same level of the person that you're interviewing, not some big table and they're sitting across from it. Make sure it's a conversation. Make sure it's easy to clearly see you, hear you, and speaking directly to the person rather than anyone they bring with them. So rather than speaking to someone else, asking, you know, what are they good at or who are they? Just talk to the person, you know, and if verbal communication isn't as great for them, ask them if there's any other way that they prefer to communicate, whether it's technology or writing down some things. And don't hold back from asking some frank questions, you know, like how the person manages certain tasks. People with disabilities have been quite used to, I would imagine, based on my own experiences working alongside people, that they've had to continually disclose and consider a lot of situations. So, you know, it's okay to ask about how they manage certain tasks. How do you go with typing? How do you go with answering the phone? What's helpful? Oh, I use a Bluetooth headset at home and that really helps. Okay. You know, I have a modified keyboard that really helps. You know, sometimes with reading documents, I just need them translated into kind of more simple, straightforward processes. Or, you know, I tend to take breaks every 30 minutes just to get up and walk around, just to calm my nerves. You know, on the other hand, you're not going to ask about intrusive things about their personal life, just about how they manage certain aspects of, you know, how do you usually get to and from work? Do you have a reliable way to get to and from work? Oh, yeah, family, I have my own car, whatever the case might be. Yeah, honest answers deserve honest treatment. So just be honest too. So, you know, be honest about anything related to the workplace. Yeah, there's no need to include anything about someone's personal condition or overly talk about their disability or anything like that, or to probe. There's no need to kind of go, do you have any special requirements? Like, if someone isn't wanting to disclose all the details of their disability, don't probe until you get that answer just because you're sniffing for it. You know, just ask them about, you know, how do you go with X, Y, and Z tasks? So tell me about who you are and what you do. And there's no need to kind of emphasize big physical differences about, I notice you have this big wheelchair, or I notice you have a bit of a gait, or, you know, that's, yeah, focus on their skills and the visual focus of the person and their interests and all of that. And don't really assume that you understand how someone feels about having a disability, like, oh, it's such a poor thing, or even if you know someone with a similar condition, oh, I know so and it's so hard, and like you don't do that in interviewing other people. Just interview the person. And as far as questioning what to talk about, you know, let's switch up the questions we're asking. You know, tell me about your strengths. Tell me about who you are. What do you see yourself doing after school finishes? Those are all really open-ended questions. If you ask someone who interprets things very literally, what do you see yourself doing after school? They might think you mean after school that day. So they might say, oh, hanging out with mates, or I got to do homework. Really, what you're trying to ask is, are there any careers or jobs you think you really want to do? Or you might ask about, like, what are your hobbies or your interests? The other thing I forgot to mention is, in the beginning of the interview, set the scene. We're going to have a casual chat, maybe 30 minutes or so. There's a clock up here on the wall so you can keep track of time. If you need a break at any time, like if after 10 minutes I'll ask you how you're going, if you want to get up, have a drink of water, use the bathroom, go get some fresh air, that's okay. We can come back to it. If we don't finish the chat today, or you just feel like it's too much, we can reschedule and come back another time. Like, we can have more than one interview, and it's not going to be a judgmental process there. I'm not going to want to read over your resume. I want to hear about you and hear about the things that you like to do and that you have done. And don't feel guilty if you have difficulty understanding someone. Just say, hey, can you repeat that? I'm having just a bit of a hard time understanding you. Just be patient. Don't pretend to understand. Like, oh yeah, sounds good. Some people can feel that. They've had people misunderstand them many times. So repeat what you understand. So I'm hearing that you like to do woodworking in your free time. I'm also hearing that you're pretty skilled on Microsoft Word and that you've used Photoshop before. Is that right? Oh yeah. Repeat what someone said. But I missed that last part. Can you just talk about how you use Adobe Illustrator? Just ask clarification if you need to. Then there's the after the interview process. This is the key piece. Leave people with certainty about how you're going to follow up. Don't say, oh, we'll be in touch. Leave people with we've got a few more people to interview, and we will either give you a call or a text or an email. Do you have a preference? Do you want to hear from us via text, phone call, or email? What do you prefer? Oh, I don't mind. Or I prefer email. Okay, we'll email you on such and such date, before lunchtime, either way. And when we email you, we'll also give you some feedback, constructive feedback. Not, oh, we had so many applicants and you weren't chosen. Give people feedback. How can they improve without some feedback there? If you're interviewing someone and then having to go to a manager who controls the money to make a decision, think about, how can I portray this person in the most possibly positive way? So how can I portray them for their skill sets, their talents, their passions, their interests versus, John, who has Down syndrome, and, it'd be such a great thing if we employed this poor man. John's really got some, some knowledge in the ecosystem and the environment, and he's really got some good skills in Photoshop and in using computers. And he's really so patient and kind and calm, and he's got some volunteering interests. I really think he'd make a great addition to our team in the admin and kind of marketing area. How can you portray that someone there? And is referencing someone's disability even relevant to the story? Like, a lot of times people don't need adjustments to the workplace. And if someone says they only want part-time employment, don't sit around and ask them, oh, why is that? Dig and dig. Just take it for what it is. They're seeking part-time work, and could this work? Ask them, what sort of hours do you prefer? Like, any days and times in particular? And how can you avoid this being accurate, unbiased, or sensational? Like, this person does some minor stuff and it's just so great, like inspirational when someone with a disability does something quite basic. Or avoid kind of discriminating because you think this is too hard to employ someone simply because they didn't want to talk on the phone or they only want part-time work. So I hope these have been some helpful strategies, for the before the interview and kind of recruitment, and during, and then after. If you're wanting support with any of this, some guidance, strategies, any consulting work, you know where to find us.